Hello and welcome, it's Pete here again, and I'm talking about shrink plastic today, but it's not just any old shrink plastic. This is our wonderful metallic shrink plastic, and it's got a lovely glittery sheen. This is the gold. You're getting 8 sheets of shrink plastic in this pack. We also have silver and rose gold, and you can see some of the projects that I've done using that shrink plastic. So it could be lovely little charms, it could be jewelry, you could even use it for card making. There is another video using printable shrink plastic, so please check that out. We'll be talking about some fantastic techniques to make jewelry, key rings, earrings, the whole 9 yards. It's really cool. I will also be introducing you to our shrink plastic accessory kit, which if you ever use shrink plastic and you found it a little bit difficult to get along with, this, my friends, is a game changer. So I'm going to show you some of my favorite techniques using this. So let's get cracking. So this is the gold shrink plastic. As I said in the intro, there are 8 different sheets. You can see one side is kind of shiny, the other side has that lovely glitter on it. And you can treat this like paper in the sense that you can ink it, you can stamp it, you can do all sorts of things with this. As well as the gold, we have the rose gold and we have the silver. And they may not look that stunning at the moment, but it's when they shrink to size, that's when you reap the benefits of these wonderful surfaces. So I think I'll start with the gold today, and I'm going to die cut some shapes using this because we're going to make a lovely poinsettia. I'm also going to show you how to shape the shrink plastic while it's still warm. So we'll cut that in half. It cuts down beautifully with scissors. So if you wanted to stamp a shape, or rather stamp something onto here, it could be a flower or whatever, you can then trim around that before shrinking it to size. Now, let's bring in my faithful Big Shot machine. And we're going to be die cutting using this lovely set, which is called Poinsettia Flower. And they're all sorts of different shapes you can see here. I'm going to take this one and the center, and you can use all 3 of the large ones. It's entirely up to you. Let's take one of the centers as well. So we're just going to use those 3. And of course, by mixing and matching, you can change the styles, change the size, change the proportions, so you can get some different flowers going on. So here's my shrink plastic. And I'm going to place the dies on like so. Now, shrink plastic is a little more brittle than card and paper. So if you're going with really complex detailed dies, sometimes it might crack. So you can, I would say, only go with basic shapes. I wouldn't go with anything more detailed than the dies that we're looking at. Now, I can run this through twice, I can run it through once. It's still going to be a perfect cut. But running it through twice, I always feel gives me peace of mind, just in case. So there we have it. There are your beautifully cut shrink plastic shapes ready to go. And then finally that lovely little center, we just pop that out as well. So I'm going to put this to one side. This will live to fight another day. I will use this again at some point. So now it's all about the shrink plastic accessories. So I'm going to bring these back in. Now, why are these so special? Well, if you've ever used shrink plastic before, one of the problems that we have is once we start to apply the heat to these, they can blow around. So we've got a silicone mat to keep them in place. And it also protects the surface you're working on from the heat. Remember, it's heat resistant, so that's important to note. Now, let's take these one at a time. Another element of this set that you're going to notice is this. This is a godsend. So it's silicone, so it's non-stick. And when I place it over the shrink plastic, as this flower shrinks, it has a tendency to curl in on itself. And sometimes the petals will stick together and they're difficult to get apart and they won't flatten out. Having this stops that from happening. It also stops it from blowing about. Now, this third tool, this is what we call the flattener. So when it's heated, you can hold a shape, because this is all silicone as well, so you can hold a shape down like that using the end. But when it's shrunk, then you take this, you place it on there, let it cool slightly, and it's ready to work with. So whether you want it perfectly flat, or as we're going to do today, shaped into a flower. And to do that, I'm going to use this kit. Now, this kit has been with me such a long time. This is my paper sculpting kit, but it's not just paper. You can actually sculpt the shrink plastic using this. So I'm taking this thick mat, and I'm also going to use a couple of these styluses. There's a wonderful little pair of scissors in these. These are some of the favorite scissors we've ever made. Of course, you've got tweezers as well. So I'm going to put the rest just to one side for a second, because I'm going to bring it in, and with shrink plastic, you have to work on it while it's still quite warm. So let's put that off to the side for now, and we'll shrink our first one down. Now, today, as always, I'm using my Sizzix heat tool. What do I like so much about this heat tool is the fact that it's dual speed. You don't always want the heat. So if I put it on there, that's a high heat setting. Okay, so if you're using shrink plastic or if you're using embossing powders, that is ideal. If you've got delicate watercolors or something which you want to dry, then the lower heat setting is absolutely perfect for that. So it is, when I say dual purpose, there are different heat tools for different purposes out there. This one is, you get everything in one single tool. So, and I'll bring that in, and you'll notice that I'm moving this around. I don't want to concentrate in any one point, because I want this to start shrinking uniformly, all together, where possible. So I keep it moving, keep the heat about a couple of inches, 5-6 centimeters above the plastic. You can see it now start to shrink down. Notice how the petals aren't curling in on themselves, and that's because we've got this great mesh over the top. Now, if I take that and I flip it over, right, so I'm going to keep the heat there, and then when I switch it off, I'll transfer it to this mat. So it's still warm, but not for long. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press that stylus into there, and it's going to start to cool. But crucially, it's got that dimension. So it's not completely flat. I could have flattened it out using this tool if I wanted something flat. Say, I wanted to put it on a card completely flat. I could do that if I wanted. So that's number one. We'll put that off to one side, and then we'll bring this one in. Same again. So I'm going to put it on the high heat setting. Move it around, and you can see straight away it starts to shrink down. Stays in one place. I'm going to flip that over, and again bring in my silicone mat, and this time I'm going to press a little bit deeper because I want more dimension, because this one is going to sit inside the first one like so. So we're getting true dimension. And the thing about these is, when they shrink, and they shrink around 40%, they're very thick now. It's very thick and quite robust. So finally, I'm going to switch from this one to the smaller stylus, because I'm going to do this tiny center. Well, it's not tiny now, but it will be in a second. So again, full heat setting. Shrink that down, and then when we pop it on here, it's still quite warm, and I'm going to press right down into the center of that. There we are. So that's really domed it. That's perfect. And then from here, there's one other great Sizzix product I want to bring out, which of course is our glue gun, and there are innumerable different videos featuring this glue gun and what is so special about it. I'm not going to go into that now, but you just have to check out those videos. So take some hot glue, pop it in the center there, and there you go, that's set already. And then finally, this detailing in the center of my poinsettia. And there we have it. Wow, that do you know what? That is absolutely stunning. It's so delicate. It's such a lovely shape. And imagine how you could use something like that, whether it be jewelry, a hairband or a hair clip or something of that ilk. And then what I can do from here is I can place it onto the front of a mini card, like so. But what if I went with the rose gold, for example? Very different look, but equally gorgeous. And then finally, the silver. So same die, same technique, different shrink plastic, different look, really, really cool. And then I used a Biggs die as well to cut out some Christmas trees and stars. And you can see these are flat, so I would have used my flattener tool to get those perfectly flat. Now, had I popped a hole in the tops of these before starting, I could have turned them into a charm, whatever I wanted to do, but we're going to look at that next. But this is a great way to add not only dimension to your card making, but a totally different vibe to what we get with card and paper. So we're going to use the other half of the gold shrink plastic, which I cut down earlier. And I'm going to be using this wonderful, wonderful die set. This is Basic Christmas Shapes. It's one of my favorite die sets of yesteryear. And I think I'll take the stocking, we'll take the tree, the little gingerbread man, and the snowman, just for starters. So I'll pop those over the shrink plastic, like so. There we are. So you can get these quite tight together. You can always add a few more, or just cut off the piece that hasn't been used, and then use it again sometime. So I'll pop that onto my big shot, sandwich between the plates, and simply wind it through. And there we have it. Pops out the other side, so it cuts much the same as card or paper will cut, if you like. So, got all these lovely, lovely shapes now. There's one thing to do before I actually shrink it down, and it's a very, very important point. When you're making a charm or something like that, and you're going to add a jump ring, what you want to do is make sure that you punch a hole in the top of the shape before actually shrinking it, because once it's shrunk, it's too thick. It's not going to work. So let's take the tree and just take a hole punch, whichever one you favor, and just pop a hole in the top of that. It looks quite big, but obviously when it shrinks down, it just allows that jump ring. So again, using my kit, my silicone mat, my mesh tool, my heat tool, and of course this time I am going to be using this flattener. So put it on the full heat setting, making sure that you keep the heat even all over, back and forth, takes a little while. And of course, with a shape this size, it would start to shrivel and shrink back on itself, and it may cause problems. This mesh tool is absolutely indispensable when it comes to preventing that from happening. If you do find it blowing around, you can use this silicone tool again to make sure that it doesn't go too far. And I'm going to turn that over and take my flattener and just hold it in place just for a second. until that cools. Then once it's cool, it's absolutely spot on. Now that's completely flat. Remember how with the last one we actually shaped it while it was still warm, but this is cool enough to touch and it's ready to go. So if you hadn't put the hole in the top, this could go on the front of a card. Why not? Or a tag or whatever you might be using. But I'm going to keep the silicone matte actually so it's clearer to see, because what I've got next is a little jump ring, and this loop, I think it might have been from an earring finding. I'm not entirely sure, but I've repurposed it for this. So I'm just going to pop the loop, the jump ring in there, and pop that loop on the top, and then take a tool and close that jump ring up like so. And there we have it. Now, it could be an earring. It very well could be. But what I've done, I'm thinking about the Christmas party season. And you know what it's like when you've got your guests round, everybody's got a glass of wine, they put them down, and they can't remember which belongs to which person. So when you've got personalized wine glass charms like these, and I cut the four from four different colors, from three different colors, I should say. So what that gives me is four different shapes in three different colors, giving me 8 or 12 unique wine glass charms. So you might need more shapes. If you've got more guests, you'll definitely need more wine. But there we have it. So, you know, but it's, again, you know, if you're not thinking of wine glass charms, perhaps we could use them for little favor boxes for your Christmas table. Again, we've taken our Christmas tree. To be honest with you, I mean, this is just touching the surface. There are so many ways of using this, and having that wonderful glittery appearance. As I said, you can stamp on it, you can ink it, you can do what you want with this stuff, but it's really opulent, really classy. So yeah, make your Christmas go with a bang. So there you go. I do hope you enjoyed that. It's a lot of fun. It's so great to work with. And you know what? You can create some really different, unique, bespoke stuff, whichever route you want to go down, using the Sizzix heat tool, the shrink plastic accessory kit, and of course the gorgeous dies which create the shapes. So happy shrinking, everybody. I'll see you again soon.